All opinions and quotations in no way reflect RiverWestRadio.com and are the sole responsibility of the producers, callers, and guests. River West Radio is not liable for any legal implications arising from this show.
You are obsolete, Mr. Wordsworth. You have no function, Mr. Wordsworth. You're an anachronism, like a ghost from another time.
I am nothing more than a reminder to you that you cannot destroy truth.
You're a bug, Mr. Wordsworth, a crawling insect, an ugly, misformed little creature who has no purpose here, no meaning.
I am a human being. I exist. And if I speak one thought out loud, that thought exists, even after I'm shoveled into my grave.
Delusions, Mr. Wordsworth. Delusions, the Bible, poetry, essays of all kinds, all of it an opiate to make you think you have a strength when you have no strength at all. You have nothing but spindly limbs and a dream, and the state has no use for your kind.
Yeah? Well, we're gonna have to do something about that. This is RiverWestRadio.com, community-supported radio streaming live from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm your host. My name is Michael Wordsworth, and welcome to Breaking Down the News, the show that presents the news highlights of the week, but with a twist. Breaking Down the News is more concerned in bringing you information that wasn't covered on the front pages. Headlines you don't want to miss, because not listening could be dangerous to your freedom, liberty, and health.
And good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on this wonderful, beautiful day. It's Monday, August 6, 2012. I am Michael Wordsworth, and we are breaking down the news. Of course, we have to cover today what is in the news all over the place. I usually don't hit up the mainstream media and follow their trends, but when you have random shootings taking place, every month now, I guess, it's going to make the news. What's not in the news right now, while we're paying attention to this recent shooting in Wisconsin's very own Oak Creek, known as the Sikh Temple shooting, we're not paying attention to Syria right now. We're not paying attention to Iran. Got the Olympics going on and the shooting, and we're not paying attention to all that's going on behind the scenes. Get ready for the corporate media to spin the FBI's characterization of the shooting in Milwaukee as white supremacist domestic terrorism. That's right. We're going to cover this extensively today. We have no choice but really to just face it as it is. This was from the NBC News. Unnamed officials that the suspect had served in the U.S. Army, had many tattoos, and held some kind of radical or white supremacist views, but was not known to be affiliated with any radical group. The suspect only had traffic tickets on his criminal records. The officials told NBC News, and the Daily Beast reported that late Sunday. What we have to ask here, there are so many angles to this. We recently had the Batman shooting, of course, the Batman Theater shooting. And now we have this. What we don't know is behind the scenes. What we've got is there's definitely an agenda behind this. We've got there's 5 bills right now in Congress that attack gun rights, and gun rights activists are all up in arms about this one. You can't blame them for that. Well, we're going to take a little break. When we come back, we're going to do just a lot of information today on the Sikh Temple shooting. I'm Michael Wordsworth. You can take it for what it's worth. Definitely a tragedy, but let's really get into some of the details. Allegedly, there was only... The mainstream media keeps putting out only one man was responsible for this. Well, that's not what eyewitness reports say. Several witnesses, the LA Times itself reported that there were 4 men, not one. So let's take a break, and we'll come back and get into this issue.
You're listening to RiverWestRadio.com. Are you tired of commercials always telling you that you're tired when you know you're tired because you wake up early and go to bed late, and every moment in between is spent trying to figure out how you're going to make the next dollar? Well, you're not alone. Millions of Americans are walking around in a sleep-deprived, zombie-like state, amplified by psych meds and pharmaceuticals found in the drinking water. So just be glad you're not one of them, unless you are, in which case I'm sorry you had to hear this. But wait, there's more. If we keep at this current pace, we will surely lose our democratic republic and soon be standing in food lines for the poisonous rations the new totalitarian government will hand out. Don't delay, get involved, get informed.
Following the pattern of numerous other mass shooters down the years, the accused gunman behind yesterday's massacre at a Sikh temple in Wisconsin worked in psychological operations while he was with the U.S. Army. A U.S. Army spokeswoman told Yahoo News that Page served from April 1992 until October 1998 as a member of the Psychological Operations Unit. He was never deployed, but won numerous medals, including 2 for good conduct and 1 for humanitarian service. The alleged shooter, known as Wade, received basic training in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, moved to Fort Bliss in Texas, and finished at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. 40-year-old Wade Michael Page's involvement with psychological operations bears similarities to accused Colorado shooter James Holmes, who was treated by University of Colorado psychiatrist Dr. Lynn Fenton, a former U.S. Air Force doctor. Questions have been asked about what drugs were prescribed to Holmes, given that the psychiatric drugs like Ritalin, Paxil, Zoloft, and Prozac have been proven to induce violent tendencies in a minority of people. Indeed, virtually all of the most well-known mass shooting cases over the last 20 years were carried out by individuals who had been prescribed SSRI drugs by psychiatrists, with several of them connected to the United States military-industrial complex. Other domestic terrorists like Timothy McVeigh were also intricately involved in clandestine Army operations and visited by psychiatrists connected to the U.S. Army. Page's involvement with Army psychological operations, added to reports of multiple shooters being responsible for the massacre, suggests that the incident could have been some kind of drill, which Page's role only compromised one part. Testimony from one eyewitness that 4 men carried out the attack has been dismissed, despite the fact that his story is corroborated by other victims who told family members that there were multiple shooters involved. In addition, the chairman of the temple stated that there were a few suspicious men seen on the temple premises, clearly suggesting the involvement of more than one person. We're going to cut to the eyewitness account. Let me bring this up here. This is right here in Oak Creek, Wisconsin.
Sunday starts around 10:30, and usually goes in the afternoon. And around between 10 and 10:30, 4 white males who were dressed darkly, dressed in all black clothing, came in and opened fire on our congregation. And from what I'm told, about 20 to 25 people have been hit. And my uncle was one of them. He's been taken to the hospital. I don't know how many others have been taken to the hospital. But basically, there are people hiding in there right now, or there were. I don't know how many hostages left. One of the gunmen is down, so there's 3 left.
Okay, there you go. One of the gunmen's down. There's 3 left. The mainstream media is reporting that only one white supremacist was involved. And what do we got? This eyewitness account from this gentleman. This is from AP News. They were on the scene there right away, and this gentleman's reporting that there were 4 men. The question becomes, and this is my immediate question, if there were hostages in the temple being held, and the lone gunman was killed by the police, who was watching the hostages? It's a good question. There's many good questions in this. We're going to continue to just break down this issue. I'm Michael Wordsworth. We're going to take a 2-second break and be right back. the alleged shooter in the Wisconsin Sikh shooting is a former soldier who worked in military psychological operations, according to the corporate media. I mean, CBS News reported that Page enlisted in the Army in April 1992 and was given less than honorable discharge in October 1998. He was last stationed in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, serving in the Psychological Operations Unit. PSYOPs are not confined to the military and usually span a number of agencies, including the CIA, DIA, NSC, NSA, and SAIC. In 2002, the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the Pentagon defined the psychological operations as integrated employment of the core capabilities of electronic warfare. Integrated employment of the core capabilities of electronic warfare, computer network operations, psychological operations, military deception, and operations security, in concert with specified supporting and related capabilities to influence, disrupt, corrupt, or usurp adversarial human and automated decision making while protecting our own. Since the alleged shooter, Wade Michael Page, is now characterized as a white supremacist, the Southern Poverty Law Center is leading the information campaign to portray him as a racist skinhead. In addition to fronting a hate rock band, the Southern Poverty Law Center has found that Page also attempted to purchase goods from the neo-Nazi National Alliance, then America's most important hate group, according to SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center propaganda minister Mark Potok. The National Alliance, like most white supremacist groups, is controlled by the FBI. In 2007, the National Alliance, like most white supremacist groups, is controlled by the FBI. That might be as shocking to you, but then consider that 96% of the terrorist plots that have been attempted since 9/11 have been instigated by the FBI. I'm laughing because, I mean, it's the very organization that's supposed to prevent terrorism. They're the ones going around initiating it. Well, the National Alliance is a white supremacist group, and it turns out it's basically controlled by the FBI. In 2007, its supposed leader, Green Beret David Kellerman, said he worked for the FBI. During a trial on weapons charges, Kellerman said he went to work for the FBI with orders to infiltrate the National Alliance, a neo-Nazi group, in 2000 and relay intelligence. The group's founder wrote a book that is widely believed to have inspired the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing, and that's according to the Miami Herald. Is it possible the Southern Poverty Law Center is somehow connected to the latest shooting? In 2005, court papers revealed that the supposed anti-racist organization ran an informant. Informant and agent provocateur are often interchangeable in this sense, that they ran an informant at the Elohim City prior to the bombings of the Murrah Federal Building in 1995. The potentially explosive contents of the teletype, among other things, and I'm quoting J.D. Cash, who wrote for the McCurtain Daily Gazette in October, the potentially explosive contents of the teletype, among other things, exposed for the first time an informant operation being conducted by nationally known civil rights lawyer Morris Dees through his organization, the Southern Poverty Law Center. In some detail, the FBI acknowledged the SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center, was engaged in an undercover role where it monitored subjects for the FBI believed to be linked to executed bomber Timothy McVeigh. The white supremacist compound at Elohim City and the mysterious German national Andres Karl Strassmeer. Strassmeer was a German intelligence officer and the leader of the Aryan Republican Army at Elohim City. As we noted in the case of the first SS Kellervie Brigade Motorcycle Division bust in July, the FBI controls the virtually all white supremacist groups. It came out during the trail of reputed racist Hal Turner that he was a national security intelligence asset working for the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force. His code name was Valhalla, and he received thousands of dollars from the FBI to report on such groups as the Aryan Nations and the White Supremacist National Alliance, of whom this Wade Michael Page is supposed to be a member of, and even a member of the Blue Eyed Devils skinhead punk band. He supported them. Well, that's what the mainstream media has out today. We're attempting to bring as many other facts as we can into this because it's not as simple as one lone gunman who is a white supremacist going in and wasting people. There's more questions, just like the Batman Colorado shooting, where it's eyewitnesses reported somebody received a phone call inside the theater and went to the exit door, the emergency exit, and let in the alleged shooter, Holmes. So, well, there you go. I mean, it's the mainstream media loves it when we just basically one guy, one deed, done. There's nothing more to see here. Move along. Well, that's not the case. I'm Michael Wordsworth. We're going to continue reporting on this issue today. I'll take a short break. Be right back. And let you decide. I can only bring you the facts as they're reported. It's funny that it happened right here. Actually, it's not funny, but I mean, it's very odd that it happened right here. We have, remember, it wasn't that long ago where we had that guy shooting up the church in, where was that? It was in Brookfield or near Brookfield there. That was pretty heavy. I mean, Milwaukee, we get our share of these kinds of things going on. It's pretty amazing. Once again, we've made the national news. I wish it was for something good, but we'll be right back and, hope for a better day.
You're listening to RiverWestRadio.com. The kitchen is the heart of the home, but at Monsanto, we're a megalithic agricultural group attempting to destroy farmers all across your country. We bring you horrible foods that attack your stomach lining, DNA, give you kidney and liver failure. Monsanto, bringing Franken foods to your family at home. Don't you just hate us? Say no to GMO.
Just say no to GMO. That is a great thing to live by. All right, we are back. I want to play this clip here. It says right here, this was from CNN. This video clip says 3 gunmen involved. We have an eyewitness that said there were 4 men dressed in black. I played you that clip earlier, and I'm going to play it again. But now let's listen to this from CNN. Of course. Let's try this again.
The thing about this temple specifically is our family is like all the close-knit families that came together in about the 80s to Milwaukee started this as a form of like having a South Side presence and being able to gather all the blue-collar Indian workers together into one temple. So my dad is the president of this, and he's been the president ever since it's opened, and he's the political arm. And the priest, I mean, it was scary because the priest picked up his phone and called me, and the priest started speaking in like full Punjabi and saying your dad is shot on the ground and no, he can't talk right now and nobody's getting into him. So they were really worried.
What else did he tell you? Did he describe anything else that was going on at that moment?
At that time, he did say that there are multiple shooters and that they are Caucasian descent.
All right, there you go. That from CNN. At that time, the head priest in the temple reported that there were multiple shooters.
Describe anything else that was going on at that moment?
At that time, he did say that there are multiple shooters and that they are Caucasian descent.
Multiple shooters. One more time.
Describe anything else that was going on at that moment?
At that time, he did say that there are multiple shooters and that they are Caucasian descent.
Well, there you have it. I mean, the leader of the temple, I mean, he was there. He was hiding in a closet, a bathroom, something like this. I presume that actually he did live. And this is very, very interesting because, look, I went on mainstream media this morning and I looked at all the articles that we got here. I mean, let me just do it again. I'm going to Google the news right now. We're going to look at this. Wisconsin's first temple shooting victim. Let me see all this. A gunman kills 6 at Sikh temple. That's according to Reuters. A gunman. A lone gunman. Wade Michael Page identified as Sikh temple shooting suspect. Huffington Post, nothing about that. Who's it? The Miami Herald. Washington Post, they say that it is one gunman. See more real-time coverage. Let's see more real-time coverage. Oh, Obama wasted no time to come on and say, we're all one people in wake of the deadly shootings at the Sikh temple. Jeez. I mean, anyhow, before I even get into that, before I even get into the fact that there are currently 5 bills right now trying to be pushed through the Senate that limit gun ownership in this country in one form or another. There's a bill to ban semi-automatics, and for those that don't know, semi-auto is not the same as automatic. Automatics are already illegal. Semi-auto weapons are nothing more than a weapon that you don't have to cock or reload or pull back some lever in order to keep firing. You can just fire successive rounds. That's something that you would want in weaponry. But anyhow, I'm looking at the news. All I'm seeing is from all these WBTV, NECN, Watertown Daily, all these small ones, he's a frustrated neo-Nazi. The Sikh temple attack was a white supremacist. Sikh temple shooter said to be white supremacist. Britain Sikhs reeling from Wisconsin attack. U.S. gunman, a frustrated neo-Nazi. I mean, that's all I'm seeing on this. Supposedly we go in depth and it says just suspect identified. Temple gunman was ex-soldier linked to racist group. Lone gunman. I see nothing about any other people involved in this shooting. I see a lot of articles here about how, the violence is horrible. Hate breeds our own terrorists, too. I mean, what the hell? Geez. I'm reading these articles. This one for the Boston Herald. Hate breeds our own terrorists. And he says that this time the shooter did not surrender to police as James Holmes did after he allegedly massacred a dozen. Why? Okay, my big question here and why I'm harping on this is why do the police, just like in the Batman theater shooting, it was one guy, that's it. And even despite eyewitness testimony, everything else is ruled out. I go into the media today, and all I see is information that counteracts several eyewitness reports that have already made into the mainstream media. I just played you the AP video clip, and I just played you the CNN video clip where it was stated several, if not 4, men in black, one eyewitness report stated that there were other people involved in this. And here they're saying the assailant shot dead by police at the scene on Sunday was identified as Wade Michael Page. They mentioned that he served as an Army soldier, but they don't mention that he was involved in PSYOPs, like we did here at Breaking Down the News. They report that there were 5 men and 1 woman that were killed. Survivors describe women and children hiding in the pantry of the temple's community kitchen as the gunmen stormed through the building. I'm just scanning through this article, seeing if there's anything. He's ties to white supremacists, but no official group will report them. Nothing. Gun bought legally. Oh, hey, the gun was bought legally. There you go. They had to stick that in. The gun was bought legally, and so you know what is also in the media is how they need to get rid of guns. Gun rights activists should be up in arms about this. Not literally. They should be outraged. Sorry. Bad choice of word. Arms could mean weapons. So, no. I mean, there's no need to break out the weapons for this. And then this guy was shot and killed. I mean, it's as if it's open and shut. I'm going through every article that I could pull up from Google News. And, you know, they got thousands of news stations reporting on this through Google. And none of it covers anything about any other. Let me type in multiple suspects. Sikh temple. No. Nothing. All right. Well, you know what? I'm just going to have to. I mean, this is what I mean. This is where. I'm just going to have to play you the here's one eyewitness account. It happened, he was right on the scene. He was there. I'm going to play you this video. This was from AP. It's a video. I mean, I'm watching this guy saying it. I'm seeing the Sikh temple. I'm recognizing all the Oak Creek, Greenfield. Apparently, ambulance came, paramedics. Everybody was involved. It was amazing how fast the police got on this. I mean, I'm not criticizing them for that, of course, but I mean, just what I'm trying to get at, the whole point is that we cannot take this at face value. There is more to this story than what all the headlines are reading today. It seems, according to the headlines, this is an open and shut case. Basically, you got a white supremacist acting alone who was killed by the police officer. Open and shut, done. Nothing else to see here. And yet, that's not the case. I mean, why does the mainstream media, why are the police putting this out that there's only one man and it's an open and shut case, when clearly there are eyewitness reports that there were more involved? And you might be asking, well, okay, so what if there were more involved? Why is that a big issue? Well, one, it's a police investigation into a homicidal mass murder. Okay, why would you want to limit the evidence involved if there were other shooters involved? Would you not want them to be brought to justice? Or are you just going to just accept what the mainstream media... It works like this. The mainstream media puts out this headline, one gunman, one suspect, he's dead, no questions to follow up there. He was a member of the Army at one point, but they don't mention that he was in the PSYOP division, that this was the area that, and I'm going to get to that a little bit later, but if they put it out enough, and I've been walking around asking people, so what have you heard so far about this? And the people that barely read the news, watch TV, the rumor spreads quickly. It's a piece of propaganda, and I'm getting back that people are saying, oh, there was only one gunman. And I'm saying, no, let's listen to this clip of this gentleman and his account when he was there.
We have our temple service every Sunday. Starts around 10:30, and usually goes in the afternoon. And around 10, between 10 and 10:30, four white males who were dressed darkly, dressed in all black clothing, came in and opened fire on our congregation. And
All right. Well, let's back that up and play it again.
Dressed in all black clothing, came in and opened four white males who were dressed darkly.
White males, I know this video is hard to hear, so I just want to clarify. White males that were dressed darkly, meaning dark clothing, black possibly. When you're dressed up in black, I don't know if there's a proper costume for these types of events, but generally black traditionally means not good. Let's continue.
Dressed in all black clothing, came in and opened fire on our congregation. And from what I'm told, about 20 to 25 people have been hit. And my uncle was one of them. He's been taken to the hospital. I don't know how many others have been taken to the hospital. But basically, there are people hiding in there right now, or there were. I don't know how many hostages left. One of the gunmen is down, so there's 3 left. And we're just praying that everyone gets...
You know what I'm not hearing in this is how are the hostages? There was a hostage stand down at one point, wasn't there? Or when the lone gunman was killed, that was it. That's the part that the mainstream media is not reporting that very clearly. What were the succession of events? Let me continue with this video.
Out safely, they're able to capture these gunmen and ideally bring them to justice.
The first officer on the scene is a 20-year law enforcement veteran, an extremely accomplished tactical officer. When he arrived on the scene, he engaged an active shooter outside of the temple.
Okay, all right. That's an account from the police themselves. 27-year-old police veteran came on the scene, and he engaged the shooter. It's a tragedy that he had to lose his life in this. This is what the brave men of law enforcement face every day. I'm not speaking about the corrupt ones. I'm talking about the good, decent law officers. This is, tragically, they risk in their occupation being killed. It is part of being police, part of being military. It's what separates them from civilian occupations. You're not considered a civilian. You potentially will have to deal with enemy combatants. Let's continue with his account.
Multiple rounds were exchanged. The officer was shot multiple times. He is currently at Frederick Hospital and being treated for multiple gunshot wounds. He is in surgery. His condition is not known at this time. The emergency medical personnel, the tactical personnel who've gone through the scene have initially identified what they believe to be 4 deceased inside of the temple and 3 deceased outside of the temple, one of whom is the shooter.
My whole world just fell apart knowing that my whole family was...
Indeed a tragedy. But even from this guy's account, the police officer arriving late on the scene, reporting to the news cameras that he had 4 dead inside, 3 dead outside, and one of them was the shooter. So I guess you have 6 presumed dead so far. That's what I gleaned from all the news sources, that there were 6. One of them, actually, and plus the shooter himself being killed. Now, let me go back to the CNN tape here because, look, this is, it's kind of confusing. It's confusing to me. None of this is reporting, where is it? Jeez. The multiple it just seems to be an open and shut case. How could that be? How could that be? Yeah, apparently I lost it. Tell you what, let me take a break. I'm going to try and find that video clip. We're going to keep reporting on this. We've got other news today. We can't let this distraction keep us going forever, but of course I had to cover this. We'll be right back.
You're listening to RiverWestRadio.com. When you're out on the road, you want to know them tires are touching the pavement. You want rubber to concrete. When you're out there, you want to drive knowing that you're in control of the wheel. But what about your government? Don't you think your government should have its reality check and the rubber hit the pavement? What's going to put the brakes on the rampant fiscal spending, budget problems? It's not the voter, it's not the constituents, it won't be the leaders. The problem ain't the leaders, it's the followers. Get behind the wheel, America.
Well, it's being officially called a hate crime by a white supremacist gunman acting alone. Nothing funny about that. What is odd and peculiar about this is that the mainstream media, that's all they're reporting. I'm hunting through the Google headlines now, going through all of them. Nothing being mentioned about multiple attackers. And coming on the heels of the Batman murders, this attack is sure to spur efforts to enact tighter gun control. Make no mistake about this. As with the two witnesses in Aurora who contradicted the official scenario, these two in Wisconsin are remarkably calm. If you listen to the, they're very calm, and which is surprising. But good for them. Neither Wisconsin man is wearing the ubiquitous Sikh turban. That's interesting. If you can see the video, they one man has a beard, which is traditional for the Sikhs. The other man is clean shaven, and that's highly unusual. They both cut their hair, not traditional for Sikhs. I'm bringing this up because sometimes witnesses are planted for various reasons to offer misleading accounts, and I can't prove that with any shadow of a doubt, but I can bring these facts to light because the mainstream media is not doing that. All right, let's go over this. Is being called a hate crime, and the term hate crime is employed for a political agenda. It's not an arbitrary thing. It's like terrorism. For example, Major Nidal Hassan's massacre of soldiers at Fort Hood was not called a hate crime or an act of domestic terrorism. Well, in the wake of the Aurora shootings, and this one, the Aurora, Colorado, where the Batman shootings occurred, and now this one in the Oak Creek Temple, the Sikh Temple, well, the memory of Operation Fast and Furious is being pushed further out of public memory. Keep that in mind. Fast and Furious obviously contained the agenda to enact tighter gun control. If you do not know what Operation Fast and Furious is, it's now been confirmed, and Eric Holder, Attorney General for the nation, is being held in contempt for his false claim that he was not aware of this program. Basically, under this program, our government gave Mexican drug cartels weapons that were used to kill many people, including law enforcement officers. Well, Fast and Furious was used immediately as a reason to enact tighter gun control. Now, please understand, I am not a right-wing gun control nut. I don't even own a gun. I'm glad that other people do. I'm just not into them myself. I don't hunt. And if anybody breaks into my home, I feel just as confident killing them with a butcher knife as I do a shotgun. I'm a highly trained, skilled martial artist, and, that's a different story than take an elderly woman living by herself. I think she should be fully armed. I wish I'd like my grandmother and my mother, or, anybody that typically could not, they can't mess around when they're they could get raped, murdered, beat up, traumatized for life. I'd rather hear the happy story that grandma blew away the guy and spared herself all that misery. Many of you out there might be squeamish. Hey, you know what? I need people to call in today. 414-935-2951. My God, if you're out there listening, this is one topic you don't need to know much about geopolitical, economic conditions throughout the world to make a comment on this. What's your 2 cents? I know you're out there watching the news, some of you. Please call in. The number is 414-935-2951. Phone lines, let me double check. They should be open. Yep. Phone lines are open. They're working. While we're not paying attention to Fast and Furious, where the government just gives guns and then later it turns around and tries to enact new gun legislation bills to take away our Second Amendment rights. Is it a coincidence? That can't be answered definitively, but if you become as cynical as I've become, you realize that just when you think you're being too cynical, you realize you're not being cynical enough. It's worth noting that new gun legislation in Wisconsin was enacted on November 1st of 2011. Concealed carry with the permit was made legal. Well, it should be legal anyhow. Between November 1st and December 28th, a stunning 64,832 applications for permits were received. And now we have today's shooting which will surely motivate some legislators to rethink the recent law and come out in favor of more gun control, and that would be awful. The Fuhrer and the press urging more gun control after Aurora, the theater shooting where at the Batman movie, will escalate to new heights now. There's another more oblique formula at work here as well. The Wisconsin governor and public employees of the state have been at each other's throats over cuts in public employee benefits. Those who oppose the governor will try to set the Temple killings as an illustration of private citizens as crazy, whereas government is sane and dependable. Propaganda is all about manipulation of images and vague generalities mixed in a potent stew to bring forth desired emotions. This formula has worked to perfection by Bill Clinton after the Oklahoma bombings in 1995. Faced with rampant anti-federal sentiment in the country, Clinton said, remember when he said this? Come home to the government. And the people did. Well, John Rappaport, the author of an explosive collection, The Matrix Revealed, John was a candidate for a U.S. congressional seat in the 29th District of California, nominated for a Pulitzer Prize. He's worked as an investigative reporter for 30 years, writing articles on politics, medicine, and health for CBS Healthcare Watch. John has delivered lectures and seminars on global politics, health, logic, and creative power to audiences throughout the world. I tell you, I agree. This is a tragedy. What can we say? I'd like to hear from the people here in Milwaukee. If you get a chance, please call in today. It would really be something like this. I just want your opinion. Michael Wordsworth. We'll be right back.
You're listening to RiverWestRadio.com. It's like the roaring 20s all over again. The stock markets are well above 12,000. It's as if nothing could go wrong, or could it? The truth is, the American economy is not as strong as it actually appears. The job reports for June were down, manufacturing down. The actual CPI rate, if you adjusted it correctly, would show that unemployment is at a staggering 22%. 46 million Americans are on food stamps, and guess who runs that program? Not the government, no, Goldman Sachs. I'm telling you, the situation here is more abrupt than we think. Wake up, America. We have hard times coming. And we need to prepare for what lies ahead. Every day, people wake up all over the world and hear commercials like this one, with soft music and a soothing announcer's voice telling you how great some big corporation's new technology will help you and your family. But it is important to remember, these companies could give a flying fuck about you or your family. That's why Breaking Down the News has made this commercial to counter their commercials. Don't be fooled by them. The battle is to gain control of your mind through media propaganda. Just say no to evil corporations and their slick computer graphics designed to brainwash viewers. Vote no with your dollars, and we will regain the health of our nation, one consumer at a time.
And we're back. I tell you, the Sikh shooting is the topic of the day, the Sikh temple. I'd like to point out that Sikhs, spelled S-I-K-H, are actually not Muslim. They're not Arab. They're actually Hindu, actually Indian, from India, not a North American Indian. And they have nothing to do with Muslims. They look similar to the untrained eye. You might mistake them for Arabs or Muslims, but they're not. They have a very nice temple actually out in Oak Creek, and they'd often have meals open to anybody, and were warm and friendly to the community. And now they have a tremendous tragedy. Police in Oak Creek, Wisconsin are calling the shooting at the Sikh temple an act of domestic terrorism. That's interesting. Although no details or other possible motives have been mentioned by the police chief, John Edwards. The lone gunman, as it's stated, killed 6 people and critically wounded 3 before he was killed himself. Sorry. He did not kill himself. He was shot by law enforcement. Hindustan Times reports that the gunman was a white male with a tattoo. The police department arrived at the scene in tactical gear, armed with assault weapons and armored vehicles, including the police bomb unit, which Milwaukee County Sheriff spokesperson Fran McLaughlin said she was not clear as to why they were called to the scene. I guess. Eyewitnesses to the shooting say that a team of 4 men... Okay, listen. Eyewitnesses... A team of 4 men dressed in dark clothing were responsible for the killings. These initial reports completely contradict the official story by the police that a lone gunman was killed. The suspect they shot and killed. We have a report here that's saying this is from Oak Creek. The man reporting on this, saying that he saw 4 men coming in. Let me play this for you.
Our temple service every Sunday starts around 10:30, and usually goes in the afternoon. And around 10, between 10 and 10:30, 4 white males who were dressed darkly, dressed in all black clothing, came in and opened fire on our congregation. And from what I'm told, about 20 to 25 people have been hit.
All right. Eyewitness account. More initial reports stated that the local hospital was told to expect anywhere between 8 to 20 people. At the time of this call-in, the suspect was still at large. Edwards relayed that the FBI was handling the investigation because the shooting was being treated as a domestic terror attack. It's amazing. Let's go over the definition of terrorism, please. It's an act of violence, coercion, manipulation executed through violence, but to specifically gain political advantage or control. Domestic terrorism is not just random. See, in the past, when people went around wasting people in McDonald's, or you had these mass shootings, we called them mass shootings. We didn't call them a domestic terrorism act. Now we've got all this money out here to fight terrorists. We can't find them. They're not existing. You might say, well, aren't we doing a really good job? That's what all the money's for. Well, you could say that, or you could say there's no terrorist threat. I'm going to play an interview from the FBI in a moment, but U.S. Attorney James Santelli, who is analyzing the case, stated that he cannot determine if this case is a case of domestic terrorism, although reports are claiming it is, justifying the FBI involvement so quickly. Well, Kurt Wines, resident who lives in upper flat in a cordoned-off area close to the location of the shooting, was told by law enforcement not to speak to the press after they conducted their interview of this summation of the events. Why was he told not to speak to the press? 7 victims died before police arrived on the scene at 10:25 a.m. in Oak Creek. The mainstream media is pointing to this incident being the second mass shooting in the U.S. in less than a month, while also mentioning that this tragedy could be related to the House of Representatives requesting that FBI monitor hate crimes directed at Sikhs in April, nearly 2 months ago. Attorney General Eric Holder and FBI Director Robert Mueller were warned to watch for this exact type of incident. Naming Sikh Americans as possible targets for hate crimes, it's amazing, because most people really honestly don't know who Sikh, what a Sikh American is. They don't know about the Sikh temple nor the Sikh faith. And yet They're being singled out as possible targets for hate crimes, and that from a letter to Holder and Mueller commented on the Sikhs' quote, distinct identity and common misperceptions with respect to their attire and appearance, saying that this group is often erroneously believed to be, quote, affiliated with extremists and were somehow responsible for the September 11th terrorist attacks. Couldn't be farther from the truth. They are from India. I can verify this. The Sikhs there are from India. That's where Sikhism originated. Well, it was arbitrarily mentioned in an MSM article that the gunman had a 911 tattoo, possibly making the tie between the attack and a 911 retaliation, as if we're getting back at them for this, and this is what set them off. Well, no, that was over 10 years that this happened. And, God, I would hope that if there really was a white supremacist acting on his own, that he would have enough sense to know that India, if anything, we could be certain that India had nothing to do with the 911 attacks. Well, you know, it's interesting that it wasn't actually a Muslim temple that he went to. I mean, could he really be that stupid? The mainstream media is reporting that he was in the military, but they're not reporting that he was a part of extensive PSYOP programs. That was his job. And it's usually, I hate to say it, but it's these kinds of guys that end up, not only are they on serotonin uptake inhibitors or psych meds, all these guys that do these lone shootings, they're on psych meds. Well, Joseph Crowley, a House representative, wrote in a letter to Holder and Mueller that numerous reports have documented how those practicing the Sikh religion are often targeted for hate violence because of their religiously mandated turbans, because of their Sikh identity, regardless of whether the attacker understands the victim to be Sikh or not. Well, that's, quite true. Actually, I'm sure that mistake would be made because, as I just stated about a minute earlier, you can't really, you can't tell them apart, honestly. But you should know there is a different, not everybody wearing a turban is directly from the Middle East or is Arab. There's a difference between Iranian Persian, Saudi Iranian Arab, and Hindu Indian. There's a big difference between all of them. That's like saying all Europeans are from Germany. Well, you wouldn't believe, you know how ridiculous that is. That people in France and Italy, they're all Germans. No, I mean, and that's the same way. So I can see how that mistake would be made. According to the Indian Embassy, the U.S. National Security Council and the Indian Consulate are watching the progress of this case, and an embassy official was sent to Oak Creek. Mueller and President Obama have spoken about the shooting, as well as the White House Chief Jack Lew and Homeland Security Advisor John Brennan. The latest gun grab seems to be centered on the use of guns in hate crimes, as anti-government activists are being tied to this incident with the letter to Holder and Mueller. While the Batman shooting began the national debate over whether or not to have stricter laws concerning gun procurement, this latest incident is specifically being billed as a lone wolf with a directed motive to commit domestic terrorism against a religious group who may be somehow tied to the 911 Truth movement. Is the FBI seeking to target 911 truthers in their latest addition to the ever-growing list of terrorists to watch on the FBI terrorist communities against terrorism list? I'm going to play a little more coverage of the actual event.
Listen, this will tell you what we officially
This is directly from Milwaukee's local news.
Wetland, if we can.
What I can tell you is that approximately 10:25 a.m., Oak Creek Dispatch received an unintelligible 911 call from someone who was reporting an incident. They received further information that there may be a shooting going on at the Sikh temple here in Oak Creek. An officer arrived on scene. He engaged an active shooter. That officer was shot multiple times. He has been transported to a local hospital. He is expected to survive. That officer returned fire and that shooter was put down. That shooter is currently outside of the temple. He is down on the scene. At this time, we don't know if there are additional shooters inside the temple. Our tactical officer...
This is from Fox 6 News right here, where they're interviewing with the breaking news report Brad Wendland. Wendland. I'm having a hard time pronouncing it. It's got A-N-D-T. Sorry, Brad, if I mispronounced your name, but he is from the Greenfield Police Department, and he's saying at this time we don't know if there are multiple shooters. Let's listen further. I mean, this was released on the local news. Thank God for Google Video now. I mean, that's what I'm getting this off of. I'm getting our local news rebroadcast right off of Google Video. It's great. It's like I have access to Fox 6 News' video archives because of the internet. All right, hold on. Let me back this up for a second, and let's hear, multiple shooters. Let's find out.
On the scene. At this time, we don't know if there are additional shooters inside the temple. Our tactical officers from multiple jurisdictions are on the scene. They are going about a methodical process of identifying the individuals both inside and outside of the temple and ensuring that the scene is safe and secure and attending to victims as they go forward. Please understand that, as I said, the situation is very fluid. Tactical operations are ongoing at this moment, so I cannot share any other information from you. I do not have a victim count. I do not have a suspect count. I can tell you that one officer was shot multiple times. He's at a local hospital and expected to survive. I can tell you that one suspect was shot and he is down on the scene. We do not know if there are other suspects present. Therefore, again, we would ask the media to not broadcast any images of officer or vehicle movements on the scene, particularly aerial shots.
And again, that was Chief Brad Wendland of the Greenfield Police Department. That was at 12:59. We're expecting to hear from him again shortly, Kim.
We want to recap this as much as possible because it still seems unreal for us to be telling you about this. This all unfolded at a temple that's located in the 7500 block of South Howell in Oak Creek. People were gathered for morning services. A call came in at 10:25 to the Oak Creek dispatch that shots were fired.
Okay. I just wanted to play that at that point, but now we got this gentleman right here. What's he saying?
And around 10, between 10 and 10:30, four white males who were dressed darkly, dressed in all black clothing.
4 white males dressed darkly, all black clothing. This video is hard to do. This is a video from, it was released through AP. That's where I initially got it. But this is the account. 4 shooters.
Came in and opened fired on our congregation, and from what I'm told, about 20 to 25 people have been hit. Indeed, a tragedy, but I mean, look, it's all too easy for people to come on and say it's a tragedy. Of course it's a tragedy. Well, let's do justice to this tragedy by getting the facts. Let's not just write this off as one lone man. We're going to follow up on the issue. We'll see. I mean, we'll see where this goes, but it has been confirmed that the alleged shooter in the Wisconsin Sikh shooting is a former soldier who worked in military psychological operations, and that's according to the corporate media. CBS News reported that Page enlisted in the Army, and he was stationed at Fort Bragg. Well, and he was a member of the PSYOP division, according to the LA Times. The Miami Herald had something on this, and it's just, I'm saying it's interesting that they're not mentioning that aspect of it. They're not mentioning that he was involved in PSY operations. If you don't know, military psychological operations are a big thing now, and it's very devious. Which you can argue the ethics of what they do, but that's not the point of today's show. I just want to mention the fact that this guy was a part of the military PSYOPs program. The news is not reporting this. Let me see what, let me go to Reuters here. Let me see what Reuters has to say. Basically says he's one guy here, Page. Let me see. I cannot find.
They make mention of it being him part of a neo-Nazi group. The gun was bought legally. I mean, come on. What's this? This is from the Washington Post. What about the release of the people? I mean, I can't find any information about how the events went down. I mean, police said there were 39 to 84 were killed in the shooting rampage. Oh, I'm sorry, from ages 39 to 84. Okay, that's. But I'm going to go through this article with you on air. I'm looking at the Washington Post National Security section. Sikh temple shooter identified as Wade Michael Page, skinhead band leader. I mean, that's it. I mean, there's just no other. It shocked the community. No kidding. Nothing on how this terrified cooks and other early arrivals were forced into hiding. After shots and screams broke the morning peace, police said the gunman entered the temple and sprayed automatic weapon fire, killing 4 people inside the building. Actually, I heard it was a 9mm, a semi-automatic 9mm that did the shooting. But, yeah, okay, automatic weapon according to the Washington Post here. Let's see. After fatally shooting Page, police found Murphy, who waved them off as they approached him and told them to go into the temple to assist the victims there. He said then it took a long time. Okay, here we go. He said it then took a long time to clear the scene because police initially did not know whether or not any other shooters were inside. They concluded that Page acted alone, Edwards said. Did they? A 40-year-old woman was among those killed in the temple shooting. They give a list of names here. So apparently, I mean, all they're reporting is eventually the scene just kind of calmed down. Let me see here. No criminal record. Local police say Page had no criminal record. Well, okay. And the FBI said it was not aware of any past threats against the temple. Well, there's your disclaimer. Yeah, here we go. Bernard Zapor, the special agent in charge of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, said the weapon used in the shooting was a 9mm handgun that was purchased legally. They're looking into this guy to see if he posted anything else. Right now, it's just a mass shooting, said a federal official who spoke on the condition of anonymity. What? Just saying. One gunman. Yeah. Hunting through this whole article, I mean, I'm just really not. It's a 4-page article too, and it's just amazing how little actual information is in here. They love to come on and tell you that this is a tragedy and the community's all, you know. That's what news reporters love to do. They love to, well, okay. Rather than dwell on this anymore, I mean, you get the basic gist. What I'm saying today, the mainstream media is reporting that one lone gunman acted by himself, hence the term lone gunman, and that he was a white supremacist, and he went in there with a 9mm handgun, killed 6 people, wounded others, and the police killed him. And that's all I'm getting from the mainstream media. Phew. That's it. Nothing else here. I mean, geez, how far do I got to dig into these articles to find Sikh Temple Massacre, first victims revealed? Well, I don't want to read their names on air. Of course, our condolences go out to them, but we're here just questioning the mainstream media itself today. As I'm speaking to you here, I'm looking through article after article in Google News, and I cannot find anything. The prevailing theme of all these articles is lone gunman kills 6. And 7 dead, including a gunman. But who are these other guys that the eyewitness accounts are reporting? Who are these 4 men? There's been several reports of that. Well, you know what? We're just going to have to follow up on this. Michael Wordsworth, we're going to take a little break. There are other things happening in the news, and we don't want to let this take up the whole show, do we? Actually, it almost has. It's freaking 4:35 already. My, how time flies. Nobody's called in. It would be nice, especially today. But what are we really going to say? All I'm pointing out is there's more to this story. There always is. I'm Michael Wordsworth. We'll be right back.
You're listening to RiverWestRadio.com. The FBI headquarters is a huge modern building in the middle of downtown. Cars and trucks drive past the front entrance on this very active street, and these doors will lead us to the elevators that will take us to the office of Deputy Director Hank Polarank.
Welcome to the FBI headquarters. Can I help you?
Yes, I have an appointment with Deputy Director Polarank.
And your name is?
Michael Wordsworth from RiverWestRadios.com, breaking down the news show.
Michael who? No.
The staff at the FBI was professional and courteous as they greeted me, and after a few security complications were smoothed out, I was soon able to get in to do my interview. Michael Wordsworth from Breaking Down the News.
Hey, come on in, take a seat.
And it was an interesting interview. How many terrorist plots has the FBI foiled in the last few years?
We've been busy, very busy with ongoing investigations. It's hard to say off the top of my head. 10, maybe 12?
And out of those 10 or 12 incidents, how many of those were not terrorist plots instigated by the FBI?
None actually.
Not one.
Well, the underwear bomber, that wasn't us.
But it came to light that the underwear bomber was forced onto the plane by a well-dressed man, and he didn't go through security. That wasn't the FBI.
No. Might have been Secret Service. I think they handled that one.
I'd like to quote an article from the New York Times. Can I?
Sure, go ahead.
This is an article by David K. Shipler, published April 29, 2012, and I quote, "But all these dramas were facilitated by the FBI, whose undercover agents and informers posed as terrorists offering a dummy missile, fake C4 explosives, a disarmed suicide vest, and rudimentary training. Suspects naively played their parts until they were arrested. When an Oregon college student, Mohammed Osman Mohammed, thought of using a car bomb to attack a festive Christmas tree lighting ceremony in Portland, the FBI provided a van loaded with 55-gallon drums of inert material, harmless blasting caps, a detonator cord, and a gallon of diesel fuel to make the van smell flammable. An undercover FBI agent even did the driving, with Mr. Muhammad in the passenger seat.
Yeah.
To trigger the bomb, the student punched a number into a cell phone and got no boom, only a bust. What do you say to that?"
What's your point?
My point is it sounds like we really don't have a terrorism problem in America beyond those plots the FBI makes up itself.
How did you get in here? Agent Smith.
Be right in. What is it, sir? Hey, wait. How did you get in here? I don't believe this. He doesn't have clearance, sir. You'll have to come with me.
He doesn't have clearance? How did he get past you?
He snuck in here when I went to pay for the pizza delivery. I was there for a while. I wanted exact change.
Okay, hey, thanks for the interview. That's all I need now.
Sir, stop. Come back here.
He doesn't have clearance?
Thank you. Talk soon. You guys take care.
Security, we have a gate jumper headed for the elevators.
And whereas this interview did not yield all the answers I wanted, I did get to state my point. And as I was leaving the FBI building, I had the realization that making my point was worth the trip. listening to RiverWestRadio.com.
Well, thank you. We are back breaking down the news. We went over the Sikh temple shooting quite extensively today. Unfortunately, I mean, I could break down just everything into like 2 paragraphs of news, actually, for all the articles that have been written today. Really doesn't amount to much because much of it isn't being told. So what else is new? I'm here just to report the news to you and bring you the facts that the mainstream media is leaving out. What they're leaving out, the 2 paragraphs, there were eyewitness accounts saying that there were multiple shooters, multiple suspects initially involved. Nothing, I find it suspicious that the mainstream media is just pounding out lone gunmen. I mean, like what's the, you know, would it hurt to investigate further? Can somebody talk to those eyewitnesses in the news and follow up on their claim that they saw the gentleman that said he saw 4 men dressed in black entering the place? It was suspicious. Don't we want to know if there were other suspects involved, or do we just want to believe this is just one guy for the sake of believing this is just one guy? I mean, that's what it seems to me. And the other information that's being left out of the mainstream media is that this guy is tied to military PSYOP operations, which is always a big question. Whenever you hear that, you have to be suspicious. Suspicious of what? That, quite frankly, this thing might not have been the act of just a lone gunman. It's possible. Doesn't seem likely. The evidence points that this is some kind of cover-up once again. You know, I just wish something would happen that I could just report on it just straightforward, but I guess then there'd be no point to the show because then you could listen to the regular news if that's all I was doing. Well, let's move on. Let's move on because there's so much more happening in the world today. Of course, you know, we wish the surviving members of the family and friends that lost their family and friends in this tragedy. We wish them the best, and, you know, I apologize, but I don't feel responsible, so there's no reason. I don't know where to place the blame for such a thing. Maybe it was just a lone gunman. Maybe it was. I mean, it's not like it's not possible. I mean, it is. Just saying, I'm finding it strange that the media is so insistent on this, and they're not mentioning any connection to the PSYOP operation in the military, which... All right, well, let's move to another favorite topic. Let's move to a topic that we discuss commonly, the debt crisis. The debt crisis, the collapsing economy, that's a big issue here on Breaking Down the News because that really is the news of the day. Mainstream media is typically telling you, look, stocks are they're well above 13,000 right now. The Dow is. I mean, they just went up again. Europe was in a, you know, the way it's been going for the last few years. Europe's in crisis, bailout. U.S. is in a crisis, bailout. And it goes back and forth, back and forth. How long can it keep going? I don't know. But today we're going to discuss the debt crisis, S&P downgrades in 15 Italian banks. This is from the Telegraph, the London Telegraph, as it were. Ratings agency Standard & Poor's took ratings actions on a range of Italian banks tonight, including downgrading 15 financial institutions, citing increased credit risk for the country's economy and banks. S&P said in a statement, with Italy facing a potentially deeper and more prolonged recession than we had originally anticipated, we think Italian banks' vulnerability to credit risk in the economy is rising. adding to that comes a in this context, the combined effect of mounting problem assets and reduced coverage of loan loss reserves makes banks more vulnerable to the impact of higher credit losses, particularly in the event of deterioration in the collateral values of assets. Among the rating agency's moves, S&P cut Banca Monte dei Paschi di Siena de BBB to, they dropped their rating. Sorry, I was trying to read this Italian bank name, and it flowed right into what the rating was. Triple B minus from triple B, just one notch above junk. Ew. You do not want to own a bank and get that rating. Banca Carige fared less well, losing its triple B minus investment grade rating in a cut to double B plus. So is a double B plus worse than a triple B minus? Yeah, I suppose if you're actually in the biz of banking, you would know that. If you were a banker, you would definitely know what each what the ratings actually mean. I guess I assume so. It's just I find their rating system interesting. I mean, in school we don't get a double B minus, B minus, triple B. It's just A, B, or C. Jeez. Anyhow, sorry, they always got to make it confusing, right? S&P also cut Dexia Crediap, the Italian public financing arm of bailed out Franco-Belgian bank Dexia, to a B plus from BB minus. Well, there you go. See, a BB minus is actually a better rating than a B plus. You know, I'm sorry. The important thing, I'm apologizing because just this article doesn't go into as much as I would have liked to. I wish I would have picked a better one. Basically, the idea, though, 15 Italian banks were downgraded by the S&P Standard & Poor's rating index. My goodness. Let's move on. We're going to take a 2-second break just so I can drink some coffee and rest my voice for a second. But I come back, I'm going to read the employment rate in the United States is lower than it was during the last recession. Can we ever have anything positive and uplifting here? I suppose. Then it wouldn't really make the news, would it? Well, tell you what, a lot of great stuff happened today. It's just it didn't get reported, so I'm reporting on that. There's a lot of wonderful, I'm sure a lot of human interest stories today, accounts of bravery, courage, self-sacrifice on the part of fellow human beings for their fellow human beings. That's always happening. The mainstream media doesn't report it. I guess it's kind of like when you have a story and you have no antagonist, just a protagonist. It wouldn't be much of a story, would it? Michael Wordsworth will be right back.
You're listening to RiverWestRadio.com. When you're out on the road, you want to know them tires are touching the pavement. You want rubber to concrete. When you're out there, you want to drive knowing that you're in control of the wheel. But what about your government? Don't you think your government should have its reality check and the rubber hit the pavement? What's going to put the brakes on the rampant fiscal spending, budget problems? It's not the voter, it's not the constituents, it won't be the leaders. The problem ain't the leaders, it's the followers. Get behind the wheel, America.
The employment rate in the United States is lower than it was during the last recession. Did you know that a smaller percentage of Americans are working today than when the last recession supposedly ended? But you won't hear about this on the mainstream news. Instead, the mainstream media obsesses over the highly politicized and highly manipulated unemployment rate. The media is buzzing about how 163,000 new jobs were added in July, but the unemployment rate went up to 8.254%. Sadly, those numbers are quite misleading. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, in June, 142,415,000 people had jobs in the United States. In July, that number declined to 142,220,000. That means that 195,000 fewer Americans were working in July than in June. But somehow that works out to 163,000 new jobs were created in July. I'm not exactly sure how they get that math to add up. Perhaps someone out there can explain it to me. Personally, I find that the unemployment rate gives a much clearer picture of what is actually going on in the economy. The employment to population ratio is a measure of the percentage of working age Americans that actually have jobs. When it goes up, that is good. When it goes down, that's bad. In July, the employment to population ratio dropped from 58.6% to 58.4%. Overall, the percentage of working age Americans that have jobs has now been under 59% for 35 months in a row. But the employment rate kept on dropping even further. It finally bottomed out at 58.2% in December of 2009. Since that time, it has stayed very steady. It has not fallen below 58% and has not risen back above 59%. This is very odd because after every other recession since World War II, this number has always bounced back strongly. But this has not happened this time. In essence, it's starting to look like 4% of the working age population of the United States has been removed from the workforce permanently. The good news in all of this is that things have at least not been getting any worse over the last couple of years. Even though things have been bad, at least we've had a period of relative stability. The bad news is that the employment rate has not rebounded despite unprecedented borrowing and spending by the federal government and despite reckless money printing by the Federal Reserve. Considering how desperately the federal government and the Federal Reserve have been trying to stimulate the economy, I truly did not expect the employment rate bounce back at least a little bit by now. Unfortunately, it is not, and now the U.S. economy is rapidly heading for another recession. But Barack Obama is going to prance around over the next few days and talk about how wonderful it is that the economy created 163,000 new jobs in July. Why isn't Barack Obama going to be talking about, the millions of Americans that have been unemployed for so long, they don't even count in the official unemployment numbers anymore. But those people actually exist, and they are really hurting. Many of them are starting to lose their unemployment benefits, and they really do not know what they're going to do. The following is from a recent USA Today article. USA Today reports, since abruptly losing her $312 weekly unemployment check in June, Lori Cullinan has depleted her savings, sought food from the Salvation Army, and lit candles to save electricity. If she can't find a job this month, the Royal Oak, Michigan resident worries she'll be evicted from her apartment, an unthinkable prospect for the 52-year-old who enjoyed a solidly middle-class lifestyle until she lost her office manager job 2 years ago. What am I going to do if I am homeless, says Cullinan, who collected unemployment for 1.5 years. She says her mind won't let me comprehend that. Could you imagine, or won't let her mind comprehend that. Could you imagine having to face losing your job, losing your home? What would you do if you were about to be tossed out onto the street? When you add up all of the working age Americans without a job in the United States today, it comes to more than 100 million. Some people have accused me of lying about that figure, but it's actually true. There are more than 100 million working age Americans that are not employed right now. And even if you do have a job, that does not mean that you're doing well. Only 24.6% of all jobs in the United States today are decent jobs. That's it. I mean, check it out. According to these figures, I'm saying there's roughly 360 million plus in America. Out of them, 100 million are out of work. They're not employed. That's 1/3 roughly, a little less than 1/3. And amongst those, 2/3 that presumably have employment, only a quarter of those jobs are decent. The rest are just, gas station jobs, Costco, Pick and Save, whatever, Walmart. The cost of living continues to rise much faster than wages. Many families are having a really hard time just paying for the basics. The inflated standard of living that we have all enjoyed for so long is starting to disappear. An increasing number of young people are living with their parents well past the age of 18 because there are not enough good jobs, and it's just so hard to make it in this economy. If you can believe it, 24% of all Americans in the 20 to 34-year-old age bracket are living at home with their parents at this point. But we will be seeing a lot more of this as the economy gets even worse. Multi-generational households, as they are known, will become very common. And that is not necessarily a bad thing. Perhaps this will give some families a chance to do some bonding. Meanwhile, many of our once great cities continue to rot and decay at a staggering pace. Today, I saw one report that discussed how the city of Detroit has become a dumping ground for dead bodies. How sad is that? Detroit was once the envy of the world, and now it's a place where murder victims are dumped. These are all indications of just how far we have fallen in this country, but things are going to get a lot worse, so we should actually be thankful for the period of relative stability that we're enjoying right now. The long-term economic collapse that we are experiencing at the moment will soon accelerate. Eventually, even the highly manipulated official unemployment rate will soar well up into the double digits. When it does, the anger and frustration that's boiling under the surface of this country is going to explode. Let's hope for the best, but let's also prepare for the worst. Michael Wordsworth breaking down the news. We'll be back to say goodbye.
You're listening to RiverWestRadio.com. It's like the roaring 20s all over again. The stock markets are well above 12,000. It's as if nothing could go wrong, or could it? The truth is, the American economy is not as strong as it actually appears. The job reports for June were down, manufacturing down. The actual CPI rate, if you adjusted it correctly, would show that unemployment is at a staggering 22%. 46 million Americans are on food stamps, and guess who runs that program? Not the government, no, Goldman Sachs. I'm telling you, the situation here is more abrupt than we think. Wake up, America. We have hard times coming. And we need to prepare for what lies ahead.
Well, this has been the Monday, August 6th, 2012 edition of Breaking Down the News. I am Michael Wordsworth, and these have been words worth listening to. We're going to pull out of here. Green Neighborhoods coming up with Eric Green himself. And just thank you, everybody. We'll be back Wednesday at 3:30. You take care out there. Stay cool. Enjoy your summer. What are you going to say, you know? Peace out, everyone.